Good morning, everyone. I can see we have a few people sign in already. My name is Lucas. I'm the technical manager in Fortis. We're just going to start our training today. It's the next session, the second session actually today, and we're going to talk about this new camera. So, hello again. What we're going to talk about today is that new NPR camera, 7-line series camera. Beautiful piece of equipment, much more powerful than the previous camera, the 4-line series Darkfighter. This camera, like you see here, it's quite big, alright, but it's not massive. It's quite heavy, alright. You have the connection at the back, obviously the PoE port, the Ethernet port, 12 volts DC, alarm inputs and outputs, and there's also RS485. At the bottom of the camera you have the SD card you can fit in. It's the maximum you can fit in, it's 256 gigabytes. Has a nice hood as well. Base comes with it as well, so no worries about the base. It's in the box. I'm just going to connect that camera in a second, and we're going to talk about a bit more about the camera, what the camera can do, how powerful it is, and how to configure the camera, and what is really important about setting up that type of the camera. The infrastructure, the height, the distance from the car, and so on. Like the camera I have here, it's the 8 to 32 millimeter focal length. You can get them as well 2.8 to 12 millimeter. So yeah, you can fit them anywhere. So I'll show you how to fit them in a second. The principles of the camera, features, what else you have there. There's a 10,000 camera, the 10,000 reg plates you can add into the camera. The camera could be a fully standalone without any recorder, if you like. If you have the SD card fit in, you just connect to your local network. You can control the camera via the web browser, or you can control it via the application, software application like the IVMS 4200. As I said, it's much more powerful than the previous one. It has a built-in analytics as well, like intrusion detection, line crossing, so that can work together with the NPR system. Let me connect the camera now, and we see what the camera can do. Of course, the camera is a bit more pricey than the last one. But as I said, it's much more powerful as well. So there's more people coming in, that's great. So let me connect that camera now. That's great, the camera is connected. So the features of the camera. What the camera, as I said, the camera can take up to 10,000 reg plates. So it means you can create a list of 10,000 reg plates. The new feature of that camera is definitely the new blacklist and whitelist. There's an extra feature when you can validate each reg plate. The other feature you have there as well is the alarm inputs and outputs. You don't have only one input and output, you have two now. As I mentioned before, there's a 256 gigabit card you can fit in to make its system fully standalone. as well as the camera could be powered PoE and 12 volts DC. So just looking at the web chat here as well. Good morning, everyone. Whoever just joined now, hello there. So the different local length of the camera will allow you to zoom it in up to 50 meters with 2.8 to 12 millimeter focal length camera. But the one I have is the 8 to 32 millimeter. You can zoom it in up to 100 meters. It's IR range on those cameras actually. And just wait for the camera to power up. We should have the camera in a second up now as well. All right, our camera is online, so I'm just going to switch you to the camera in a second. As I said, the principles of that camera, and how to install the camera, and what challenges do you have when we install the that type of the camera. So poor resolution is definitely one of the worst type of scenario when the camera wouldn't really recognize the reg plate properly. Blurry image, especially when the car is in motion on the front of the camera of the camera itself, it might affect your detection. Poor lighting and low contrast, reflection, shadows, anything like that can affect your detection as well. Any object that is on the front of the reg plate, any object that is on the front of the camera, it could be a bar, it could be a the what you call it, the gate, anything that might be on the front of the camera could affect the detection. Yeah, there's more people joining, very good. So reflection of the reg plate, that might damage. So there's a few features within the camera that allow you to adjust the settings and get the best picture of the reg plate. So installation of that type of the camera, what you need to consider before you do installation, obviously where the camera will be positioned, the environment, if that will be like an entrance or maybe the side gate or anywhere, it's not going to be public road. Anything you need to take under the consideration before you think about the camera, where the camera is going to be, how quick the car is going to be on the front of the camera, so then you can adjust the exposure time for that camera. Of course, the position of the reg plate. So in the case when you have the gate entrance to the car park, there's certain height need to be installed. The reflection and the backlight, you just need to think about where the sun is going to be, any kind of reflections, different time of the day. The same with the camera on public road or anywhere, if there will be any street lights, anything like that, that might affect this camera detection. Obviously the stability of the construction. So if you put that camera on the pole, obviously the pole can't shake too much. Obviously when you put the camera lower down, it wouldn't be shaking, all right, but if you put the camera quite high on the pole and the pole is not stable enough, obviously it's going to be shaking the whole picture, and the picture will be blurry and not really sharp enough to detect any reg plate, sorry. The weather conditions, like usually the camera, from what I could see, it doesn't have any problems, especially in Ireland. You don't have any snow that might cover the whole reg plate or anything like that, so that's pretty much all right. The MOG, obviously, if the reg plate is covered in MOG or anything like that, it might affect the readings. So the installation checklist: the maximum license plate recognition accuracy, just the angle and height. So the height, it would be the 1.5 at least, to about 3-5 meters, depends on the focal length you have there on the camera and the distance of the reg plate. The lighting conditions, it depends if that is a pitch black environment, or maybe there's some street lights, you might adjust the exposure time. Just like I said, an exposure time might be adjusted. I will show you later on what it's all about in the exposure time, but there's one setting really they need to look into it, just to make sure it's going to pick it up every single reg plate. The detection rate is about on the level of 98%, which is great actually. The pixel size of the reg plate, of the reg plate itself. So when the car is approaching, depends on what resolution camera you have there. When you have the 2 megapixel resolution camera like we do here, the pixels and the actual reg plate, it can be too small, because of the pixels wouldn't be not detecting the actual numbers and letters. The algorithm wouldn't handle it. The angle of the license plate, so the angle is very important. Is not supposed to install the camera in a more than 30-degree angle, horizontal or vertical. So in the case if you like to install the camera, you need to remember, you just try to get the camera as much as you can line up with the reg plate. So there's an example of the reg plate car there, just pretty much on the front, and it would pick it up, that kind of reg plate, perfectly fine. And there's an example of the nighttime. During the nighttime, like you see here, the headlights, in normal circumstances, it will affect your reflection, so the reg plate wouldn't be visible, or the reg plate would be too dark or too bright sometimes during the nighttime, if you want to adjust the exposure time right. Another one, there's a different type of the installation. Is just an entrance and an exit to the car park. So like you see here, the distance between the car and the reg plate should be at least 4 meters, 1.5 height, and 30 degrees angle of the reg plate surface. So that will allow you to get the most of that camera, to get the best results. There's another example of the good and the bad example of the installation. Like you see on the first picture, on the left, it's showing the camera and the reg plate, they really line up and they're showing perfectly fine. The reg plate is nice and clear. When on the second picture, when you look at the camera reg plate, the angle of the view, it's definitely more than 30 degrees angle, and the picture of the reg plate when the camera is taken, it would be a bit tilted as well, so it wouldn't be as precise and clear for the reg plate camera to read. There's a few bad examples of the incorrect installation. The camera, it might be a bit, it's high alright, but the angle on the first picture is too big. Tilt angle as well, the reg plate is not straightforward, it's not line up and it's not horizontal. And the mount height, it's too low on the third one as well. So for the different type of the cars, the reg plate, it might be on a certain height from the road, and that might affect your readings as well. Of course, the camera itself could be set as a standalone device, as well as in connection with the NVRs or Hikvision software, for example. So if you have the camera standalone, as I said, it would be good to have the 256 gigabyte SD card inside of the card to take the snapshots, to take the video if you like. But if you have that connected to the NVR, then the NVR will take over all the video that has been taken, and you can control all the camera via the NVR. The only difference is once you have the camera connected standalone, you can enroll up to that 10,000 reg plate cameras. That's grand. And you have the different type of the reg plate black and white list that you won't find on the NVR. The NVR will export and import different type of the blacklist, and there will be only 2,500 of the reg plates that you can import via the NVR. So if you have such a camera, the recommendations are ready to import and export the reg plates directly from the camera, unless you have the NVR and then you have the Hikvision. Then within the Hikvision software, it allows you to import as many cameras as you want, really, as many reg plates as you want, sorry. So in that case, you don't have to be worried about the camera itself. You don't need to log into the camera itself anymore to import or export the reg plate. You can do it all in the Hikvision software. The different application scenarios, of course, you can install the camera in the car parks, in open space, and in under the roof car parks, underground car parks as well. Petrol stations is a great example where you can install such a camera. Especially that camera, as I said, has the inputs and outputs. There's 2 inputs and 2 outputs at the back of the camera, so you can use them to actually trigger the pump, if you like. So imagine someone forgot to pay one day, so you can put their the reg plate on the blacklist, so the next time they will show up, the pump will be blocked, for example. You can centralize that system, so if you have the networks of the petrol stations, they can share that reg plate between different petrol stations and just blacklist that on every single one of them, and the next time they will show up on a different petrol station, the pump will be blocked and the notification will be sent out to the management, for example. Of course, you can also set that camera on the public road, and the camera has not just one lane, you have 2 lanes. You can operate in both directions. Then you can see here it's the NPR system topology, where the camera is standalone, or where the camera is connected with the NVR, or just a simple NVR together with the IVMS 4200 software, the free license software, that you can control the camera. You can see the results live, and you can see the results in the past, what has been recorded, what has been detected in the past as well. So the Hikvision, it will allow you to do the same, but as well it will start a database, and that database is more complex. You can use the reg plate, you can use the name, you can use a different type of the car. It's so much more advanced features and settings you can change and associate with that reg plate. So the IP camera with the NVR, it will just detect the vehicle, and the reg plate detection will be sent to the NVR and will be stored on your hard drive of the recorder. And then you can search within the recorder GUI for all the reg plates been detected, as well as you can with the IVMS 4200. With the Hikvision, the same scenario. You can, if you like, you can have the NVR connected in the middle, but you can also go directly to the Hikvision software as well and control it all from here. And this is the scenario when you have the NVR in the middle between the Hikvision and the IP camera. So in this case, when you have the camera connected to the NVR, you can locally look at the reg plates if you like. So if there's a management on site that they need to look up the cameras locally as well, they can do that on the recorder or the IVMS software. But if they have the Hikvision, they will have the client software to log it in as well, and they can log in to multiple sites with the Hikvision software. So we're just going to go back to the ANPR configuration. In ANPR configuration, I'm just going to show you how to pre-configure that camera, how to make this camera actually work in on-site, standalone, but also together with the NVR. All right, so what we have here now is the IVMS software, but we're just going to jump into the web browser. In the web browser, we're going to log into the camera itself. So once we logged into the camera, like you see here, I went straight directly to the road traffic. We're just going to start from the local view, maybe live view there. In the live view, like you see here, I have the camera actually put on outside the window. So maybe it's not the ideal installation, obviously not, but it will give you the example of what the camera can do, and even in that kind of environment as well. So you see here, you see the camera here is it's pointing at the road. I can zoom it in, zoom in out and zoom it in all the way. So we're just going to zoom out slightly. That should be enough. So this is our camera. This is the model number of the camera with the current version of the firmware. As I said, this is a 2 megapixel camera with the latest compression 265. That will allow you to save some storage. And in image settings, you have the display settings, just like an ordinary IP camera. You can change the display settings, but the most important in the image settings of the ANPR camera is the mounting scenario. Like with the old type of the cameras, with the 4th line series cameras, that option was set to normal by default. With this camera, you can have this set up to road, and that will change everything. Especially when you have that kind of camera installed on a public road, when there's a pitch black outside and during the night time the headlights of the car will interfere with the detection. So what it does, what is actually happening when you have that camera set to mounting scenario road, you probably won't see anything here, but if you go to the exposure settings, there it is. It's set to 1/1000 of the second. So the camera is really fast taking the pictures. So if I change it to normal, straight away it's just like any other ordinary IP camera, 1/25. And if you go back to the road, that's what it should be. With that kind of exposure time, the camera should pick up the reg plates up to 100 kilometers per hour, no problem. If you like to pick up the reg plates for the bit faster cars on the road, you might just slightly change that. But that's actually a good setting for that kind of cars with that speed. So up to 100 will be perfectly fine. Day and night switch, anything here, don't really change anything. The day and night switch is triggered by video. Leave it as it is. The backlight compensation, the wide dynamic range, like I don't have any strong light behind my camera or on the front of the camera somewhere, so we don't need to change any settings here. The same with the white balance and image enhancement, it's all fine by default. Like the camera is already set by default to get the best of what you can get of that kind of camera with the best results in the reg plate detection. There's a local output. If you have the BNC monitor, you can connect the BNC monitor and actually, connect to the camera just to look at the view of the camera locally if the camera is at the pole or so and you don't have the laptop with you. So you don't have to go back to the monitor every so often. You adjust the camera view. Of course, the OSD settings is just a typical OSD menu with the different options here. I put the name of the camera, the model number of the camera here, so you can see. The events, just like any other camera, the motion detection, tamper, and so on, it's all there. But also, as I said to you, it's more powerful camera because you can use that kind of camera with intrusion detection at the same time. So you can have the line cross and intrusion detection working, and at the same time the camera will pick up the retch plate. So it could be on the front gate, pointing the front gate. So if there will be a vehicle or a human being coming up on the front of the camera, the alarm could be triggered as well. And as I said, by alarm, it's a send an email, notify civilian center, or upload the picture to the SD card. And the storage, we don't have any storage here. We don't have an SD card connected. So if you go to the road traffic, that's the most important page here. As I see, I already adjust the lines here of the retch plate, where the retch plate might appear. So you have the left border and the right border. So the one in the middle, the blue one, it's where it's like a line crossing. When the car is going to cross that line, it will trigger the detection for us. So there is some car just passing by here. On the bottom of the page, you can adjust how many lanes you can adjust here. Because it's quite narrow road, we don't need to put any more than one lane here. Country, the region, if you like to choose the island, that's grand. You can just choose any country in Europe, or in general you can just pick it up, the European general set and preset. Select mode, we have the entrance and exit, city, street. So these are the more important, I would say, to look at. City, street, and when you have that on some sort of public road, obviously when you have the entrance and exit, there will be like a gate or an entrance to the car park. The arming schedule. The arming schedule in this case, like you see, I have the whitelist, blacklist, and others. So in the case of the other, any retch plate that has been detected, it will pick it up. It will be picked up and send information to my monitoring station. The same with the blacklist or whitelist. So, but the whitelist, I have selected alarm output number 1. For blacklist, I could select number 2 and just save the settings. But that's fine. We have the whitelist and the blacklist. But how to upload the retch plate to your camera? So we have the blacklist and whitelist on the top of the page. We just need to export the file. It's just an Excel file, so that will be quite easy to read. So once the file is exported, I should have that file on my desktop. So that's on the actual file. So in the first column you have just the reference number, so you just put number 1, 2, and so on. In the second column you just put type in the reg number. It has to be capital letters and numbers. There's no space in between and a hyphen, anything. It's just on one word. So we can just go 151, for example, D 26134. So for the second one, I don't know, 09 CN. And then we can choose if that retch plate would be blacklisted or whitelisted. So the first one we can go with a 0 to make that camera blacklist, sorry. And for the second, it just make it whitelist. Of course, if that is it, if there will be all the permanently, we just leave that as it is, save this file, and import it back to the camera. In the case if for some reason the camera, the reg plate, it's whitelisted only for a certain period of time, you can just type in the year and exactly month and date when the camera will, for how long the camera will, that reg plate will be valid. Sorry. So we can go into May, the 1st of May. So in this case, the first reg plate will be valid as a blacklist permanently, and the second reg plate will be valid until the 1st of May 2020. So once we have that saved, we'll close that window altogether. We'll go back to our web browser. We'll browse for a file. It should be on your desktop. So there's the IP test I created before. Import. Looks like it changed the format. Just make sure it's all text here as well. Just going to save it again. And we just enter the reg plate. Save that file now. Go back. And try import now. Just going to try it again, simple reg plate, just to make sure we don't change any format here. All right, we managed to import it via the NVR. So there it is. I'm just going to add that again here. So now we're just going to try to import it again. So that's imported. If I go to my real-time results, I should be able to see the current readings as well. So the most recent reg plate been detected will be listed down below. The difference between this camera and the previous one, you can also should see in what direction the car approach or was leaving the premises in this case. So it was forward or reverse in this on this page. But also you can set a different type of the detection and arming schedule in the case of the blacklist. So imagine you have the whitelist camera, that in the case when you have the gate that is covering the entrance and exit, you can actually only pick up the reg plate and allow those reg plates from the whitelist when they're approaching the car park, not when they are leaving, just in case if there will be a different car just beside that not supposed to be let it in. So in that case we can just change forward or reverse, and then every whitelisted reg plate will be only allowing this car on the front, approaching the gate itself. So when you go back to the real-time results, that kind of page will actually allow you to see all the most recent events, the reg plate detection. So that will help you to see if all the reg plates has been picked up correctly. So when you have a look there, the capture picture, you can see if the reg plate does match this kind of reg plate. Like I said, the angle of the view here, it's a bit more than 30-degree angle, but it still is picking up our rate. So you're not supposed to go more than 30-degree angle from the surface of the reg plate. 1.5 is the minimum height. And yes, it does work with the FTP settings, server, sorry. So when you go to linkage action, you have to upload it to FTP memory card or NAS drive. I'm just reading the questions here as well. Yeah, I might just look into the Excel file itself. It might be just formatted automatically, like you said. So just to double check that as well for you. So once we have the camera set up and it's picking up the reg plate, as I said here, we can go to our recorder. This is our recorder now, and in the recorder you have the vehicle detection, and you can do the same thing as well, apart from the validation time. You can't really change that here. So, and you're only limited to 2,500 reg plates in this case if you do it from the NVR. But the camera is still picking up all the reg plates, and all will start within the hard drives of that recorder. So in the case when you have the camera set up, you can just get the blacklist or whitelist here as well, and linked to the to different type of the linkage method, like audible warning, send an email, notify civilian center, a full screen monitor comes up on the screen, or you can trigger any of the alarm outputs together with the trigger recording. If you have the digital camera, you can trigger the preset of that camera. Like you see here, trigger alarm output, you can also select the output of that camera. So you can see this is the output of the recorder, and these two are two outputs of your of your camera. One more thing regarding the camera, it's really important when you have the camera standalone, or if you are using alarm outputs of the camera. So if you go to the events and the basic events, alarm outputs, you make sure the alarm outputs are scheduled, because by default, like you see here, I changed that schedule before for the alarm output number 1. If we go to alarm output number 2, there's nothing been scheduled. So in that case, that means even if you check the link in the linkage action for alarm output, that might not trigger your alarm output. So it's better off to make sure it's always scheduled for all the cameras, for all the alarm outputs. In this case, so I can show here how quickly it's done. So just save that, so, and copy across, and that's it. You can also test the alarm output. So in the case you have the barrier connected to the alarm output of the camera, you can manually trigger that from the web browser. Once I click it, I could hear the click on the camera, and there is the barrier will be open straight away. So you know all the connections are connected right. Once the retrieval is on the whitelist or the blacklist, it depends what you're going to choose from the whitelist or the blacklist to trigger. Obviously the barrier will be open as well. And together with the arming schedule, we can set a certain time. If that is a car park entrance car park to some business enterprise, when the car park is only open in the certain hours, we can just limit that detections only to the time when they're open. So once we are connected to the recorder, to the NVR, we can check what retch plate has been detected and if there were any. So in the picture, if you go to the picture on your NVR, this is all happened via the web browser. I'm going to show you in a second how to do it in the IVMS 4200 as well. So we just select the file type. It's a vehicle detection, and definitely not a checkerboard, but unfortunately the country all is on the bottom of the page. I'm always struggling to go all the way to the bottom, and then you can just select the time and date. You can just select the yesterday date and today's and see what has been detected. So see, there's plenty of retch plates been detected. So if you go live view, you can actually see the retch plate of the car passing by just minutes ago. In the file name, you can also find the retch plate itself, what retch plate has been detected in the name of the file. This can be exported, so it will export a file with that name, and you can just download to your USB stick and share with anyone. So this is the camera, this is the recorder. So I'm just going to show you the IVMS software right now as well. So in IVMS software, I have both recorder and my camera connected. So if we go to main view, you should have the live view of that camera. Here you go. The same of the NVR as well. The same picture, obviously. I'd like to see the results of the retch plate, what has been detected in the past. So like you see, I already searched for something, so I'm just going to search again. Just make sure I go vehicle retrieval, and the major type you just go with the vehicle, and you can select the exact time frame you're looking into. So I'll go select 2 days now and just go search. So once you click search, that's what you get. All the retch plates, like you see, everything has been detected nicely. If there was a retch plate here, nicely detected, that's the retch plate. There's a capture time, and of course you can do the playback from the IVMS software. So I'll just click the playback, and there it is. That's brilliant. You can try to find some from nighttime. There is some nighttime retch plate. Just go playback here as well. So like you see, the headlights of the car, they're a bit dim. They're not as strong as they would be when you look at the car in live. So that's allow you to actually pick up the retch plate nicely. And there's another one here as well, perfectly fine. Even with that angle of the view, it's picking up that car retch plate beautifully. And as well, you can export every single one of them, and you can save anywhere on your PC. You can go on the bottom of the page with all the pages, with all the detections and showing here as well. But these are historical detections. What in the case if you like to have like a monitor station or the security guard looking at the cameras, you have the event center. So in this case, you can see all the events triggered by the camera or the NVR itself. So if I go with my NVR, you can see the reg plate camera pick up the reg. On the bottom of the page there's a reg plate, and I can do the playback as well if I like to from that page. So any most recent detections will show on that page. You can filter off any other events like line crossing, intrusion detection. You can prioritize those from the NPR itself. Like you see here, I prioritize only the reg plate cameras. So even if there will be any motion detection, intrusion detection, line cross and so on, they won't show unless I will check the box to show even the normal detections as well. Joe, thank you for the tip. That's actually right. The entrance and exit relay would trip the output immediately. With the city street will trigger 5 seconds delay. There's a small delay, all right. So that's why when you have the barrier, you want to have that barrier triggered immediately as soon as possible. So it's always to have, it's good to have the entrance and exit setting when you have the barrier or something to open, basically. So this is our camera, of course, via the IVMS 4200. We can also control the camera with the PTZ control button. You can zoom it in, zoom it out all the way if you like. Together like with import and export of the reg plate. So if you like to control, you don't like to use the web browser to set up your reg plate, you can also use the IVMS 4200 to log in. So you just go to the basic configuration and that will open configuration of your camera here. So the monitor station or the security guard, they can use the IVMS software to export or import the reg plates, to change all the reg plate that has been associated with that camera. So the actual camera itself, if you have any questions, please type them in on the web chat. Great turn up. I'm really happy to have you guys, and I'll see you next time. All right, take care and goodbye.